In my last Business Plus One video, I covered about when you should convert a side hustle to a private limited company. So, in today's video, I shall talk about how I apply all these principles to my own solopreneur experience. You see, when I quit my job, that was in 2023, and we were facing a tech retrenchment wave back then. And it seems that 2 years later, we are experiencing the same kind of trends right now. There are a lot of retrenchments, restructuring, and people are out of jobs. So I guess this is the time of opportunity. If you have always wanted to start a business, but you don't want to manage so many people, you don't want it to become like a multinational company. You just want to be yourself, manage yourself as a solopreneur, then maybe this video is for you. If you haven't heard of being a solopreneur, it is a one-person company. So essentially, you just manage yourself. You are your own boss and you are your own employee. Of course, this doesn't mean that you have to be a one-person company forever. As you scale larger, you may want to employ help, either from part-timers, temporary staff, contract workers, or even outsource services. So you don't have to just do this alone. And I know that setting up business is a very solo and very scary journey. So come and join us at over 21,000 like-minded individuals first to strengthen your personal finance first. Then you can think about starting a business. Alright, join us at Honey Money SG. So let's go back to the timeline of 2021 January when I first started YouTube. It was really on the purpose of improving my presentation skills during the COVID era. And it was also an avenue for me to share my personal finance thoughts because of what I've learned, I experienced, and I just want to share it online. And because I was also very passionate about building side hustles, previously I was doing my carousel e-commerce shop, and that led on to become YouTube as the main side hustle, which replaced my carousel e-commerce. Also back then, I wanted to build social media presence, or they call it IP, intellectual property, so that outside of work and outside of who you are, people can actually know you as a social branding. So that was what I wanted to achieve out of doing YouTube back then. And in fact, for the first 6 months, I only earned $500 out of all the referral signups and all that. Okay, there's not much monetization. Can you endure earning just $500 for 6 months? And for the full year of 2021, to be transparent, the full 12 months, I have only made 3,500 Singapore dollars. So is that a lot or not? Definitely not. But I guess that is always a starting point. So moving on to year 2022, where I already had 1 year of experience in YouTube, I started a sole proprietorship, which means I registered my business with Accra. It's not a private limited, it was a sole proprietorship. Because back then, I saw the benefits of having a new UEN, unique entity number, which means I don't have to sign contracts using my own NRIC and my own name. I can sign contracts under a business name, set up business accounts and all that stuff while keeping my personal identity relatively private. But the truth is that for sole proprietor, there really isn't much advantages. People could still look you up on Accra BizFile and find your personal information. So it is not as private as you think. But 2022 was also the year that I registered and applied for the APEC card. I think it stands for Asia Pacific Economy Countries or something like that. It's to facilitate business travelers and allow them to stay up to 90 days in the countries within that organization. I also took advantage to apply for the business credit card, which is Amex High Flyer, Singapore Airlines business card. So there are some of the benefits that only a company or a sole proprietor with a UEN can apply for. Other than a self-employed, you cannot do that. Now, at the same time, in 2022, I started taking in more projects, more campaigns. I worked with more partners and more brand deals. So it's piling up on top of my side hustle plate. So I think in the second half of 2022, I have been contemplating on whether I want to scale it up to incorporate a private limited company, and maybe I could do this full-time next year in 2023. And I gave myself a revenue and profit target. So if I were to hit those targets, I will straight away go and incorporate a company the following year. And at the same time, I started reading up, educating myself about private limited company, what are the benefits and what are the costs involved of starting a company and maintaining a business. So that was, in the meantime, the second half of 2022, what I did to educate and upskill myself. You see, I always believe that in this world, the biggest cost is the cost of ignorance. And why I say that is because you may think that starting a business requires a huge amount of capital, which is very scary for a solo person having a side hustle, trying to convert it to a private limited company. But fortunately, as I was educating myself in the meantime, I found Osome, a professional service that can help you incorporate your company at a low fee. You may ask, how low is low? Their standard incorporation plus secretary package is 600 Singapore dollars, but applying through my exclusive link, you can get an additional 16% off, which makes it 504 Singapore dollars. This 504 Singapore dollars package has already included $350 worth of government registration fees and $60 of annual returns filing fee, which is all paid to Accra anyway. So the net cost that you pay to Osome is actually lower than you think. If you want to register your business in Singapore and take advantage of the low tax rates and pro-business environment, I would strongly recommend Osome. So check out the link in the description to get your 16% off and get started with Osome today. Moving on to year 2023, this is the start of my new private limited company because I tendered my resignation in late December and I left my job on the last calendar day of January 2023. And I must say that if you are thinking to convert your sole proprietorship to a private limited, I would say don't bother. Just start a fresh new private limited. It is much less complicated. And after your private limited company is set up, you can just close off your sole proprietorship. Also, that meant that I hit all my revenue and profit target numbers in full year of 2022, which was why I was determined to start the business. And I guess the biggest draw of incorporating a private limited company comes from the tax benefits, which is the startup tax exemption. And that is your first $100,000 will be taxed at an effective rate of 4.25%. Because I know that many of you have the misconception that all companies will be taxed at 17%, but 17% is just the regular rate. For new startup companies, you enjoy various tax benefits, and your first 3 years, you will only be taxed at 4.25% effectively. So 4.25% might be even lower than your personal income tax bracket, which I believe is around 7 to 11.5% at least for those corporate employees. And here is the timeline. I left my job in the 31st of January 2023. I started work in my new private limited company on 1st February 2023, which means there was no gap in between. And I started paying myself salary since February, which I guess was good for my situation because a full-time employed income is always stronger and more substantial than a self-employed declared income. That also means I need to pay CPF myself because no company is going to pay me. I myself will pay my own employer CPF of 17% from February onwards. You know, one more lucky thing that happened during that year was that for YA 2024, when the budget was announced, there was a corporate income tax rebate. So this rebate will be applied on the financial year of 2023 income. And that meant that in my first year of incorporation, I enjoyed that 50% income tax rebate. Of course, there are some terms and conditions involved, but I'm glad that it was automatic. I don't have to apply for anything, and the money was just credited to my company bank account from IRAS. So this goes to show how pro-business is Singapore, and they are taking new companies very seriously and giving them the head start. Now coming to 2025, 2 years later, I'm starting a new business and it's called Solo Biz. The origin of this business is because I was doing one-to-one consulting course on business since 2024. So I talked to some of these entrepreneurs and side hustlers who are thinking of starting a company. And I can tell you that there are many aspiring self-employed or side hustlers thinking of scaling the business, but they have no formal resources or education to teach them how to do it. So they are now doing the business in the form of a solopreneur, which means they do it themselves. They are like self-employed status. Some of them are content creators. Some of them are home-based business. Some of them are just providing consulting services, and they are paid very good. But you know what's the problem or not? They do not know how to set up a company and the benefits of doing it. So it's very sad to see people leave money on the table because all that they have earned is just added on to their personal income tax, and that may increase their tax bracket to like 14%, 16%, or 18% depending on the IRAS tax table. So very poor thing, very cursian to see people leave money on the table, especially when Singapore is pro-business, right? So I started this business to help guide these people and those aspiring individuals who may want to think of incorporating and scaling their business. So if you want to join the journey, go and comment B2B+1. And right now, the business is still building in progress. And when it's ready, I will share it. So go and follow my IG page at Solo Biz SG. That will be solely for business content, business consulting, and all that stuff relating to this second business. And after starting my content creator business 2 years ago, I think I can apply some lessons to this new business. Firstly, there will be some early bird discounts. So the first 50 people, you will get some discount promo codes when the business is officially launched. That is really to incentivize early adopters and give back to the people who have supported me throughout the years. And number two thing that I'm going to apply from my YouTube is that I'm going to introduce affiliate marketing, which means that if you refer someone else to sign up for any kind of package within this, you'll earn some form of referral fee. So I want people to spread the word if it is good. Okay, if it's not good, we will take a feedback and we'll improve the system and the process and the materials so that it is good enough for you to refer other people to join and you can get some benefits as well. Alright, so having said that, I will focus on building this second business. Meanwhile, go and follow the Solo Biz IG page. And if you want to know when should you really convert a side hustle to a full-time business, stop being an employee, then you should refer to my previous video right here.